headlines this morning on 0809-444-0981. That will be for getting your reactions across. Be sure you can tag us on all social media platforms at X. You can find us at Smooth 91 FM. Same handle across social media handle. And of course, we're streaming live on YouTube at youtube.com at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. That said, let's say big good morning to Mr. C. Welcome.
Good morning, Omas. Good morning, Lagos.
Good morning, AB Bozimo.
Good morning, Omas. Good morning, Mr. C. Good morning to all of the wonderful listeners who are still making it through the nightmare of the bridge closures in Lagos.
And with the table set for the conversation this morning for Freshly Pressed, the papers piled up right ahead of us right away. So let's get in this one. Mr. C, you'd like to start us off with this one. From the stand of the Nation newspaper, they run with this headline, Court issues fresh order restraining NLC, that's the Nigerian Labour Congress, the Trade Union Congress, TUC, from strike in Imo State. The last time you weighed in on this, you had said, look, you are not smiling about this issue of going to strike every time. But wading into this now is legal now. Let's see what we can understand from the story.
Okay, thank you, Omas. So, a court, the National Industrial Court sitting in Imo State, has issued an interim order, an interim injunction restraining the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress from continuing any form of the strike in Imo State, pending the resolution of the outstanding issues between them and the Imo State government. Now, what this means is that, irrespective of the fact that whatever lingering issues have not been resolved completely or partly by the Imo State government, there is a subsisting order of courts that has been issued that they should obey. Now, their counsel, the lawyers to both the NLC and TUC, were present when arguments were taken. However, it is not clear if they were in court when the order was made. Now, why do I make this distinction? Now, if the lawyers were in court when the order was made, then there will be no need to serve the order on either the Nigerian Labour Congress or the Trade Union Congress, because it will be deemed legally that both parties have sufficient notice of the order. However, if they were not in court when the order was made, they will only become bound by the order when it is served on them. Now, bigger point is this. There's a lot more playing out right now. There is an election coming up in Imo State. And for whatever reason, agents or individuals sympathetic to the Imo State government are taking extraordinary steps to prevent any sort of strike that will paint the government in a bad light. However, these are the issues. There are civil servants who are being owed in Imo State. There are pensioners who are being owed. There are people who are being owed gratuity. Now the question is why? Why are they being owed? Because when you look at the political class, either at the executive level or the legislative level, they are never owed. So why will people who have put in the work, put in their sweat, put in their blood, be owed? We've heard stories, not just in Imo State, all over the country, where people are made to attend all sorts of verification exercises to collect monies they've legitimately worked for and entitled to, and they slump and die. Now, whatever this means, and this is a lesson to Labour and TUC, find another method, find other method. It's not everyday strike. There must be other creative methods.
Now, the number one Labour citizen in the country, Joe Ajaero, had a brush and we saw bruises, and you think Labour and the TUC should go to sleep not wanting to also express a point that they wouldn't accept what was done to their representative.
Okay, so let me put it this way. Now, agents of the state government have been very inhospitable. The Labour Party candidate was stopped on his way to visit a member of the House of Reps by some armed individuals. Now, the story, and this is bad for the Nigerian police. In two different states, in recent times, Members of the Nigeria Police Force have acted rather poorly and rather unprofessionally. In Port Harcourt, they sprayed tear gas and water on a sitting executive governor, claiming they did not know he was the one, that they saw a group of people who were threatening with peace and sprayed them only to discover he was there. And nobody has been questioned, nobody has been disciplined. Same thing in Imo State. They say that they were rescuing him from orchards. The Nigerian Police Force, right? If you've taken sides, which is really sad, that's okay. But don't insult the collective intelligence of Nigerians by giving this cock and bull stories.
Okay, so in summary, just as a connection to the Nigerian police, we understand that the commissioner of police in the states, three states that will be having elections, that's Imo, Bayelsa, and Kogi, the IGP has ordered for the redeployment of the commissioners.
So again, it speaks to the rots, the pervasive rots that has set in over time. Because by redeploying them, the IGP is openly admitting that he does not trust the integrity of the officers sent to head those operational commands, and that he believes that by taking them out and sending in a new set, all will be well. But here's the thing, governors who know their way do not need a lot of time. It doesn't take an eternity to corrupt or materially induce an individual.
All right, thank you very much. Let's drift away now to AB Bozimo with another flanks ready for us. AB, I'd like you to help us understand this story that the Punch newspaper is running with here. And the federal government to subsidize direct production, stop importation. That's according to the minister. When was the last time you wore an African print?
A recent Friday sometime. That's okay. Typically one nice thing you'll find at many locations in Nigeria. There's that urge to wear something beautiful, colorful, creative, typically on a Friday and for other events. Okay. There is a lot to be said about this story. Adire, in and of itself, it has so many varieties. It's pretty beautiful. There's an entire ecosystem behind it. There's the design, the production, the sales, the preparation. And so the minister is saying with delight, she went for an event and she's saying, look, the governor of Ogun State is planning to create industrial hubs where Adire will be the focus. There will be efforts to support those who are creating it, and they will even export it and possibly, make it popular around the world. Absolutely beautiful, intentions. Where I begin to go away from her statement is when she said that her plan is for us to improve Adire production and ban importation. I think, again, that bans are the least intelligent form of trying to enforce. There are things you can do. One, you can put a tariff. Two, indeed, what you should do is make your production more efficient such that it makes no sense, literally, to import. Just saying you're going to ban without doing the other things that will make it better to produce here, I think is backwards. So I like the initiative about trying to make Adire and all that more popular. Hey, you can imagine on a red carpet anywhere in the world, a person of Nigerian descent or a good friend of Nigeria wearing some of our beautifully styled Adire. That would be such. We all know Kente. Once you see Kente, you think Ghana. So the same thing can be done for Adire. We should have a style, a signature that can be based on Adire. First of all. Two, it gives jobs. Anything that gives jobs, 5, 50, 100, it adds to the total number of people who have an opportunity to legitimately create their own lifestyle and income. That can only be good for their mental health and their well-being. So I like the initiative, but please forget about banning. Instead, as a minister of this federal republic who has the ears of the president, speak to him, write memos to him about what it will take to make Adire production much better and more competitive, at which point thinking about the imported versions will not matter. Let me tell you something that can interest you. Nigeria's budget is $47 odd billion converted. The budget of Nike is $162 billion. The largest apparel company, LV, is 372 billion. So just on fabric and related things, there are companies whose pocket money is more than Nigeria's entire budget. So there's a lot to be said about promoting your fabric industry and all that, but please go about it the right way. Stop trying to kill competition by unintelligent things like bans. Instead, kill competition by being the best at what you're doing.
I was expecting the petty impressed of these companies to drop in as a phrase, but then I guess on a Monday you would drop it then. You said that's not a petty interest, petty cash.
It is petty cash. I mean, when you think of a company that's valued at 372 billion,
yeah.
What do you think they do for lunch?
Oh, I
Every
see
lunch,
that now.
their lunch money is more than Nigeria's budget.
Okay, but Amy, finally, before I let this Adire rest a bit and go to Mr. C for our next headline, but wearing Adire once in a Friday won't do enough for the demand, do you think? Because that's what's in your opening submission.
Well, that's of the working is only 20%. And I'm saying the more it's promoted, the more it's made mainstream, it might leave the Friday. It might go to 2, 3, 5 days a week. Why not? What makes a suit in hot and humid Lagos the appropriate thing to wear? Hello?
Okay. That looks like a fine place to probably put a call across to the WTO Director General Konjo, who's been a trailblazer and ambassador for that.
5 days a week, she wears Adire. Hello? And she's the head of one of the world's largest institutions. She's doing a good job to me.
Okay.
No, quick one.
Okay.
5 seconds. If top politicians started all the handles would copy and follow, and then trickle down to people in society.
Mr. C, I'd like you to help us open up this story, but when we come back, you would also be able to expand your points when we are returned, but just set the pace for this story from the Punch newspaper. 5 billion naira yacht, Navy confirms delivery, faces payment crisis over National Assembly opposition. So here we are, ignorant that the purchase were made, and we were discussing this last week. It's back.
Okay. I'll start off by saying this. When the story came out last week, I carefully refrained from exposing the fact that even the highlighted son cannot get you a lot, even if it's stolen.
Oh, okay.
Because 5 billion converted at today's rate is about $5 billion. You will not get a lot for 5 billion.
There's still more to be said about the yacht, and I know AB, you've got something to drop in when we come back, but that will be after this time out. We are Smooth 98.1 FM, and you're listening to Freshly Pressed. Stay tuned.
For the reliable way to grow. Let me tell you,
Mr. C, I don't know what is happening over there. I don't know what is happening over there, but whenever Mr. C starts talking, it's not quite distinct. Then it improves. I don't know whether somebody's changing the volume to make his voice louder, but initially it's not very loud and clear, but after it gets better. I don't know why. So I struggle for your first few sentences, but other than that, please, let's carry on.
Okay.
Thanks.
We all know there are a lot of apps out there, but ARM has everything you need to go from where you are. Start your wealth creation journey today by downloading the ARM One app, Google Play Store or iOS Store. Great options for everyone. You even start with as low as 1,000 naira. 1,000 naira. For more information, visit arm.com.ng or call 01-271-5002. That's 01-271-5002. ARM. Let's face tomorrow together.
This is Allocates, Spaceship Boy, and it's your breakfast show.
We're back. It's still Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1 FM. And we're looking at the headlines and, of course, getting your reactions piling up already. We expect those to be there on 0809-444-0981. And let's get back to Mr. C. And the yacht, even if it was stolen, can be gotten for 5 billion. I established that for us, please.
Okay, so saying we have now gotten further information that indicates that the yacht or the vessel arrived in June this year. Now, we further hear from Senator Ali in June that the agreement to buy the yacht was prepared, signed, executed. The yacht was delivered but not confirmed. Please, who exactly are you telling this corporation to? Which yacht builder or yacht vendor or yacht supplier will actually supply the yacht, deliver the yacht to the final customer and not collect any money? It then goes further to say that, it was done on the back of an anticipatory approval. Now, the spokesperson for the House of Reps says from sections 8 to section 83 of the Nigerian Constitution, there's nothing like anticipatory approval. Now, what is clear is that it is these sort of stunts that continue to undermine public confidence and trust in government at all levels. Now, for that vessel to have gotten through, believe it that money was paid. That story that no money has been paid is not true. Now, take the action of both the House of Reps and the Senate. They removed the money, the 5 billion that was allocated to the Education Hires Students Fund. Now, what that means is, wherever that money was really going to, there's now a hitch. Now, we've also heard stories from the Navy, it's going to be a training vessel for the Navy. Everything good. What does that even mean? What is the name of the vessel? The vessel got here in June, right? So between June and November, is the Navy seriously suggesting that vessel has not been named? Where is the vessel docked? Where is it moored? Because vessels don't float in the air. They don't just float in open water. It is stationed somewhere. Where is it stationed? Who is in control? Who has command of that vessel? And more importantly, who gave the approval for this vessel to be acquired? Who gave the approval for the vessel to come in? And why was this not properly communicated to the Nigerian public? And this is also an indictment on mainstream media in Nigeria. They're rarely afraid to shake tables, and then we get to hear these things from independent journalists who are determined to bring the truth to us. Now, in all of this, will any head roll? Will anybody be even asked to properly explain the events behind this transaction? Sadly, no.
AB Bozimo, I'd like you to chime in on this one.
Very quickly, two things. From all the stories, every hotel of a certain size in Nigeria has a presidential suite. Clearly, the president does not stay in every presidential suite. So I think it's a bit of nomenclature and miscommunication. But that said, just like Mr. C said, how on earth did authorities within or outside the Navy authorize the bringing in of such, I would imagine, a major piece of tactical equipment without prior appropriation and approval? What else have they been doing? It just talks about governance being missing. Because if you can smuggle, quote unquote, in a presidential yacht, what else can you smuggle in or out of Nigeria territorial waters with no oversight? This is a major indictment. Now, they said it's June. Remember, we changed over government, and for some weeks, they were waiting for who would be in the House of Reps. I don't know whether they tactically used that period, but I'm not speculating. I'm saying their governance is a continuum. There was no time when there was nobody in charge to refer to. For them to do this, I think is major dereliction of duty on those overseeing and insubordination on the part of the military authorities. There should be heads that roll.
Maybe, but before we go on, you raised this point now, and they said it's been here in June, and every time when there seems to be chaos, some persons who understand chaos actually progress and make a way in it. So it would look like in the period of stabilizing the government, where the government, they were yet to be ministers, even the House of Rep members were yet to find their feet. So then it came in. That's what it's looking like.
That's it. But there's always a permanent secretary somewhere. So you should not be able to do a thing like this without some kind of paper trail of approval. Whoever authorized it has questions to answer. No matter how needed it is. Again, I've taken away the luxury yacht part. I think that's a communication thing. But the process is really under scrutiny.
Okay. And that's a fine place for us to get to messages this morning. I've got Osage from Ojodu. Governors who were workers and pensions do not deserve a second term. And the three states are guilty of this offense. Nigerians, it goes on, make the right choice. That's what they're saying there. But let's go over to Ibrahim from Surulere. If government could sponsor locally made clothes at Dire, they ought to make it a formal dressing. It would boost its production and usage. And that's what Ibrahim from Surulere had come up with this morning. So let's get over to Shegun. Wearing Nigerian fabrics is nice, even though most are imported. What is not nice is that our textile factories are not coming back to life. They have been dead for over 20 years. That's according to Shegun. Dan Okudwa from Igondo sent in this one. Why is it that Nigerian police force never held accountable for their infractions? Is the police above the law? This kind of pampering into the whims and caprice of the police needs to change. Dan Okudwa sent that one from Igondo. And I've got Ayo _Lagos says, on the NLC, TUC, and Imo State suit in court, great analysis in the studios. I am not Sawyer, but police redeployment of the state IGP commissioners before election is a routine. I'm not sure if it is because of lack of confidence or corruption. Let's make it out there too. And then for him, Ajero threw himself in harm's way in the view, then you can't expect the police to grab you when you jump off a cliff by going into a crisis-prone state to troubled waters. Okay, let's quickly go back now to some of the papers now. Mr. C, this one is for you. It says, federal government allocates 15 billion naira for repairs of third mainland bridge in Lagos, and incidentally, work start, and we see some areas have been cordoned off already.
Okay, thank you. So, as negotiations have discovered to shock, well, to some shock, nevertheless, notice that the third mainland bridge, certain parts of it have started 5 weeks, and the cost of fixing the bridge now is about 15 billion. Coupled with the fact that it owes contractors for work previously done on the coal and marine bridges to the tune of 11.4 billion. Now, the bigger question is this. We're now having to spend such huge sums of money, even though they may not seem huge in government sectors or government circles at all. They're still huge to those of us in the private sector. What would it have cost to have done the proper maintenance and the proper repairs as at the time they fell due? This is an enduring question to which we probably will never get the answers. Now, there's no gainsaying that the most important bridge in Lagos State today, and for a very long time, has been the third mainland bridge. Now, imagine the pain and the horror. You cannot come from the island, and I think descend at Adekuni. You have to go all the way. Coming from Shoki into the island, you cannot descend into Yaba. So you're now going to put more pressure on Carter Bridge. And you do Oyinbo. And Oyinbo, I understand, I'm not sure if they finished the construction work there. It's going to be very interesting times for Lagos. Two, they've suggested a timeline of 5 weeks. Experience from recent repair works has suggested that they rarely ever meet those timelines. They tend to exceed those timelines. But is this work absolutely necessary? Yes, it is. Because we do not want to wake up to stories of a bridge collapsing whilst people were rich. So yes, belatedly, they started the repairs, and we do pray that they do the work properly, because in a southeastern state, an airport that was built less than 6 months ago or completed off, the runway is now cracking. And this is an airport that has not even started commercial operations.
Okay. Next, we go to AB4 with the Vanguard, and it says environment degradation, Senate resolute in addressing flooding, gas flaring. Ned Woko is the one speaking. And would we ever get tired of, and then when I would like to see the action, especially in the Niger Delta of part of the country?
You know, the senator made very convincing statements. He identified the main problems at least speaking from his perspective, from his region, where you have erosion, flooding, gas flaring, spillage from this destructive and I feel unwise, actions of some of our security forces when they burn boats and all that, then he's stressed that along to help flooding, one, the River Niger must be dredged, and that dam that was proposed many years ago, if it cannot be completed, maybe a new one should be done. He makes this very interesting point, and I'm happy, first of all, to see a senator speaking about issues that affect his constituents. That's how the person representing his area should be, and that goes to all of the senators should be conscious. He made another point I thought was very, he said it doesn't matter how much it costs, because the purpose of government is to make life better for the people.
Yes.
When we see governments having the temerity, I'll use that word, to spend money on assorted luxuries, and actually in that same chamber saying they cannot afford to pay for WAEC for people, and actually talking about giving money for loans when they have given themselves luxuries, then you know that there's something very distant between the lives of the leaders and those of the people. So I'm happy to hear him, but I don't know how much support he'll get, because legislation often needs a certain support for it to be passed and to be forwarded. He's identified the places where this is going on. And he made another very important point. He said in countries like the US and other Western countries, you don't have things like gas flaring going on. And he's correct. So why on earth is that something? I saw it as written here 2 weeks ago, still going on in Nigeria, in the Niger Delta. These are the kind of things that I want to hear from somebody representing me. When I hear about the governor of Borno talking about how farmers there are dying from attacks, that's what we want to hear, leaders talking about what affects the people. Whether the various governments, repeat, at all levels, federal and state and local, will pool their efforts and resources together to get it solved is a question. But it's a good initiative.
And that's our final paper for this morning. And so we'll go over to the messages as we can see here. If the IG, Inspector General, has not redeployed those commissioners despite the calls for their redeployment by the political players in those states, we will still come out to condemn him and say he's biased. Even the closure of the third mainland bridge, which we all have been complaining about, is stylishly receiving a flack despite all the alternatives made by the Lagos state government. What exactly do we really want people in government to do that we will not vent about? Abbas Aladekbo has that question for us this Monday morning. AB hit the point on the nail on the head on the bans on intelligent and lazy. Is it only Adire we will wear? As a lawyer, will I wear Adire to a court? Mr. C would look good in Adire to court and his wig. I'm just saying, I'm just picturing that out. But moving on. Why didn't the National Assembly buy made in Nigeria SUV? Banning only means increased smuggling and corruption. On the vessel, I only have 2 words: executive lawlessness. Ibukun from Ketu. I see Joseph Menye's message here. This is not, okay, happy birthday to you. But then it goes on, this is not the country we all dream about because leaders seem to be self-centered, Carlos. And just imagine the issue of the presidential yacht, but then it's a naval yacht. Now, that's what we can say from the facts before us right now. I see messages coming in from Emeka, all the way from Aja, Idima Puza from Surulere, Michael Adetutu. I see Shegun, I see Tonye's message, I see Dami's message, Anthony Francis' message. I see all of them. I will say thank you all very much. And this is how I will say thank you to AB Bozimo for your time today.
Thanks for having me. Agree, disagree. Let's talk about it at AB Bozimo on all platforms. It's been a pleasure and a privilege. Have a wonderful week ahead.
All right. And thank you to Mr. C.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap, folks. Join me in about 14 minutes when it will be time for us to meet inside the locker room. Come with your teams and your basketballs and the banters. Good morning.